Hi there, this is Sean Collins, and today we're going to talk about computer security. And again, this is for novices. This is for folks who are not considering themselves techno savvy, right? If you're a systems administrator, this is going to be pretty basic for you. But for everybody else, this is what you need to know to make sure you're safe on your computer in 2023. So the first things first, the most obvious thing that a lot of people forget about is physical access to your devices. Don't leave your devices lying around unlocked. I know that sounds really obvious, but you'd be surprised what I run into in the wild. See people leaving their laptop open and unlocked while they go to the bathroom and ask somebody next to them to just keep an eye on it for them. It's unbelievable what you see people doing. So please keep physical access to your device restricted to people you trust. Preferably just you, right? Okay. Once you've got that kind of locked down, you want to turn on the firewall on your computer. Windows devices do this too, but macOS has a really simple, easy to turn on firewall. It's in your system settings under security. Just go into the Apple, pull down to system settings. When it comes up, there's a little search field in the upper left-hand area of that sidebar. You just type firewall, hit return. It'll bring up the firewall, turn it on, and you're set, okay? That's the next thing. After that, you need to think about the firewall on your network. At home, you're probably on your ISP's default equipment, which may have been turned on, given to you, and then the person just walked away. Very likely, that device is running with a default password that is the same for every device of that type that's deployed anywhere that that ISP works. So you want to get into that device and reset that admin password, reset the admin username if you can, but certainly reset the password. All right. It's also not a bad idea to get yourself a third-party firewall, but this more applies to you at work. If you're a business owner, small business owner, and you're doing it yourself and you're just setting up your network, you definitely don't want to be on that internet service provider's default equipment. You want to be putting that ISP's modem, cable modem probably, or maybe fiber, into your network closet, but then you want to be buying a third-party firewall from someplace like, I don't know, Fortinet or Sophos, so that you've got a professional grade firewall on your network protecting you. It'd be great if when you buy that firewall, you buy one that includes a VPN. And we'll talk about why in a little bit. So the next thing is, so you've figured out what you're doing at home, and whenever you're at your home office or at your office, you're going to have that firewall in your network protecting you. But what about going out and working at that Starbucks I was talking about? All right. Public Wi-Fi, big problem, right? Because if it's an open Wi-Fi, anybody else that's on that same Wi-Fi network can open up a computer and can sniff the network and can see anything that you're doing that's unencrypted, which can be a lot. Encryption's pretty well standard on most websites these days, but there's a lot that you do that could be snooped on the network. So you want to be very careful about getting onto public Wi-Fi. All right. One way around that is, instead of getting on public Wi-Fi, you get on the hotspot that is provided by your phone. Or if you have a dedicated hotspot that you travel with, that would work as well. But if you do have to get on to the public Wi-Fi, you're going to want to use something called a VPN, Virtual Private Network. That allows you to create a tunnel between where you are at Starbucks or whatever coffee shop and wherever that VPN is located out there on the internet. Now, if you have a firewall back at your office that has a VPN on it, that allows you to, yes, you guessed it, create a secure encrypted tunnel from wherever you are out in the world, connected to public internet, all the way back to your trusted network back in your office. And what about third-party VPNs? You may have just done a Google search and said, all right, well, find me VPN software. And it's like, oh, yeah, sure, install this and we'll connect you up to a VPN. You gotta be careful about where you connect to, because just because you're on a VPN doesn't mean you know where that VPN is going. It's kind of like getting on a freeway on-ramp and then not knowing where the off-ramp is going to go, right? If you get on a freeway and you think you're going one place, but the off-ramp is taking you someplace that you don't trust, that's bad. So you want to either be VPNing back to your office network through your firewall, or If you buy a third-party VPN, be sure it's from a vendor you trust, and you'll have to do research online or get advice from your local consultant or your IT department if you work for a company with an IT department about how to go about doing that. Speaking of IT departments, if you do work for a larger company that has an IT staff, they very likely have already set up a system at work for you to VPN into. So if you're doing a lot of remote work, you might want to talk to them, ask them to set you up to access the VPN. They'll know exactly how to do that and how to help you. So next thing I'd like to talk about is antivirus and anti-malware. Antivirus software has been around for a really long time. Mac users in particular have not been too prone to install antivirus software for at least a couple of decades, because back in the late 90s, frankly, Apple didn't make enough computers to become a threat or to become a target for virus creators, to people who write the viruses and the malware. Basically, it was a cost-benefit analysis. That if you were writing viruses and you said, well, where am I going to put all of my effort? You're going to put your effort into writing one virus that will run on a system that is everywhere, not a system that is in a small handful of pocketed areas. So Apple now is gigantic and Macs are everywhere. And so guess what? People who write viruses are writing them for Macs and have been for years. So it's really important that you buy and install trusted antivirus software. There are some great examples out there. There's Sophos. Malwarebytes is fantastic. There are other options as well. But do your research. Find something that has what you'd call an XDR platform or an MTR platform, which is Managed Threat Response. XDR refers to sort of an artificial intelligence system that is going to hunt for viruses, whether they are known because of a signature that they have or unknown, but they're behaving like a virus, and so the software can identify it. Whereas Managed Threat Response throws in a real live team of people at that company that will respond if their software detects a problem on your systems. Both very, very good idea. Okay, and that'll protect you from that. The malware that I am mentioning here is particularly problematic because in recent years we've been seeing attacks of ransomware where people will get infected, someone will click on a link somewhere, they'll download malware onto their computer, and it'll just sit there. It'll set up a connection to a command and control server on the internet, and it'll just sit there and watch what you're doing for a real long time. And then once the bad guys have figured out enough about you, they'll activate something that starts to encrypt the storage on your computer. Pretty soon, your system stops working, and eventually your system is completely locked up, and you get a message saying, hey, we've locked up your system, and give us Bitcoin if you want to get your data back. You don't want to be in that position, so having something that scans and looks for ransomware and is preventing it is a really, really good idea. Also, if you see a link in an email and you didn't ask for it, do not click on it. And in fact, even if it's from a bank you actually work with, go to the website, follow a bookmark, Google the actual bank, and follow those links to get to the site in order to log in. Don't just click on links in emails, because that's what they call phishing, and that is a great way to get your data stolen. All right, so what happens if you did click on a link and you got all your data stolen and now you're in real trouble? Backup. Backup is super important. If you have a local backup on the Mac OS, we have Time Machine, which we love. If you plug that hard drive into your computer that you bought to back up your computer, your Mac is going to ask you, hey, would you like to use this hard drive to back up your system? And you say yes. Okay. But then if that backup drive is connected when you get infected with malware, it's very possible that that backup drive will also be encrypted and it'll be locked out and you won't have access to that as well. So what do? You install a third-party tool to back up to the cloud. I recommend Backblaze, but there are plenty of other options. This gives you a backup in the cloud that is separated from what you have on your system. If you have malware on your system, if you have something that starts encrypting your data and you lose everything, that cloud-based backup will be there and you can get your data back. And that can really save your bacon. So those are the basics. There's a lot of detail that I glazed over, but those are all of the things that you should consider doing to keep yourself safe on your computer. Thanks for watching.